Hey guys, Shine Midget here. So I am really excited for this video. I'm going to be doing a formal review on the Polarstar F2 engine. Now, I do not have, as you guys know, a lot of you guys at least, know that I'm a huge fan of the V12s. In fact, I own 3 of them, and I've installed probably 100 of these engines. They're incredibly affordable, and they work fantastically. They just do. A lot of people will try to disagree with that, but most cases, people just haven't tuned them properly. And I've tuned, like I said, around 100 of these properly, and they shoot second to none close to this Fusion engine, or this F2, quite honestly. You can make these V12 shoot just as good as a Fusion engine, F2, or any other engine on the market. So to start off, I would like to say that I have installed 3 of these engines. One in this, one in a Crytek LVOA, and the other one was like a G&G combat machine of some sort. I don't know the exact model. And then this one is mine for my AK. So I purchased an AK. I just purchased my own F2, and that is going to be installed into my AK. So that'll be the 4th one that I've done. So in terms of performance and quality, my 3 favorite engines are the F2, the Fusion engine, and the V12. And the reason why those are my top 3 is because they're all forward bias nozzles. And they all have the ability to use closed bolt, which is far superior than any other HPA engine out there. It just is. Closed bolt is God's blessing on HPA. You can get incredible trigger response out of with closed bolt, incredible consistency, an amazing rate of fire. Now, that doesn't mean to say that all the other HPA engines out are crap. Polarstar F1s and jacks are pretty good. They are rear bias nozzles, so the nozzle is always back when you plug the air in, which can lead to a major nozzle alignment issues and consistency issues. But as far as rate of fire on jacks and F1s, they're incredible. They're not sluggish on semi-auto or full auto. You can program those to insane amounts, but you still have the inherent issue of the rear bias nozzle. But in some cases they work great, but the price is just, it's a lot of money to have to drop. These are like the M4 version 3 and version 2 basic F2s are like $425, and if you get the offset ones they're like $500. So it's a lot of money to drop on an HPA system, but in general, it's a buy once. You're not going to buy 2 of these, you know. It's not like, oh, 3 years down the road, you're going to have to replace it because it's going to be broken by then. No, these things last forever, HPA engines in general. So again, the FCU that they use is the Rev 3, so that if you buy a Fusion engine, current day Fusion engine, you're going to get that FCU, because the mini FCU here only works for jacks and F1s. I don't really care for those mini FCUs because you use trigger pulls to adjust the settings. There's no LED screen, but those are good for saving space, like in a small space for your battery and FCU. Those are like half the size of these FCUs, so save space and also battery power because there's no LED screen. So if you like those features, I guess there's the mini FCU there. Alright, so now I'm just going to give kind of a rundown on the engine itself, kind of from front to back, just talking about a bunch of the I guess the features and the functionality of it. So let's just start with the FCU. So this is the Rev 3 FCU, arguably the best FCU out there. The like older versions are quite a bit longer, I believe. These are also supposed to be better on battery. It still has the LED screen, but it's supposed to be better on battery compared to the really older ones. So the settings on here, you can see RE is Rev 3. So it's the most current date firmware and everything. So there's a lot of settings inside of here, and I'm not going to go into what is what and what you should use. I have people message me all the time, what settings should I be using, blah, blah, blah. People message me about every system out there, asking for me to tell them what settings to use. Sometimes I tell people and their gun shoots great. Sometimes I don't, because people pay me to do this. That's what some people don't understand. People send me their engines to install and tune. Why would I just give you that information for free? Not only that, I am an incredibly busy person. I work between 45 and 65 hours a week at an actual job. Not only that, but I come home and work on airsoft guns as well, and I'm doing that 10 to 20 hours a week as well. So I'm incredibly busy. I can't just sit on my phone and give you all the cheat codes for these HPA systems. So closed bolt's the first one. Depends on which way you go, I guess. You could be going the other way. But there's closed bolt, on or off. You got DR, which is kind of a confusing setting, kind of. It's basically a nozzle timing setting. And then DN, which is how long your nozzle stays back, okay? Which is another nozzle timing. DP, which is the pop it dwell. And then there's like some other random settings in here. Now, this is the box that the F2 comes in, and there's some manuals in here, and it gives you so much information. So if you're... some people will not even read this. They won't even read this. They'll just message me or message some other person like me and say, how do I tune my engine? Instead of reading the information in here. There's a lot of information on these sheets inside of here telling you what every setting does. So you can try a bunch of different settings and figure it out yourself pretty much. So there's a few of these settings that are just kind of like weird. I'm not sure what those are. And then there's these settings, which is like your burst settings. So like on safe, I could do 2-round burst on, or semi. I could do 2-round burst on semis, dead as semi, which is pretty cool that you can do that. There's two different for semi, and then full auto. So you could do like 2-round burst for semi, and then full auto, you could do full auto, or whatever. You come up with something. So I hope that makes sense. So I just have this set for semi and then actually a 3-round burst, but I'll show you that later. I'm going the other way. And then there's SR, which is actually a rate of fire decrease on the engine itself. So you can go up 1, 2. It's basically a delay on semi-auto, which I think is incredibly stupid, because why would you want a delay on semi-auto? When you hit the trigger, I want the trigger to fire every single time. Some fields will require, like 500 FPS DMRs will require a delay on semi-auto, which I guess is fine. I think that rule's kind of stupid, but I do understand shooting 500 FPS. Personally, I would rather shoot 450 with .2s and play with .3s, like in my SR25. I have a V12 in that. I can spam the trigger, 450 FPS, 2 joules with .3s, plenty of power, plenty of range, and consistency with no trigger delay. I would prefer that over 500 with a trigger delay. I prefer the lower FPS without a delay. Hope that makes sense. So you can delay your semi-auto, which I don't know why you would. Sometimes the trigger gets a little sticky, kind of, and it'll maybe like double shoot on semi. So some people do a 1 second delay. I think it's a millisecond, so that you don't have that like double tap kind of firing. But I would just leave it off. And then there's the rate of fire setting, which is determined by your other nozzle settings. So it's not like if you set 50, it's going to shoot 50. You have to tune the other settings, which some people get confused on, but some people don't understand HPA systems. They think you toss it in the gun, you set it for 60 rounds a second, and go out and hurt people. It doesn't work like that. Some of these people think that you just toss an HPA engine in there and it's easy to get high rate of fire and unload on people. That's not the truth. You have to tune these settings pretty minutely in order to get those high rate of fire stuff. It's not like you toss it in there. It's not easy, well, like a lot of people like to say. And then you have FC, which is for fusion engine, or F1 for F1s and jacks. That's basically just the system. So if you have an F1 or jack, you need to have it on F1. If you have a fusion engine or F2, it needs to be on FE. So that is that. The wire harness is your basic Polar wire harness. These break all the time. These wires pop out. It is not a matter of if this wire is going to break. It is a matter of when. Maybe a couple years down the road. Depends on how rough you are with the wires. But that is the biggest con, in my opinion, about Polar Stars, all of their engines. Their wire harnesses, these wires just pop out. They're bad quality. Not bad quality, but it's kind of a bad design because they're so thin and brittle. Whereas with a V12, you have an internal FCU. You have one wire, 2 wires coming out together, and it's heat shrinked all the way around, and a JST connection. That's it. There's no FCU sitting in here to screw up. That is one of the amazing features about the V12 that I love. Whereas with these, you have this big, bulky wire system with a big battery sitting here. You got to tuck it all up in there, and these wires pop out. But Fusion engines, or Polar products in general, they're made in the U.S. and all this other good stuff. They're consistent. Their customer service is fantastic. So there's a lot of pros to the brand itself. Your hose here is going to be included. This valve is not included, and it's the same way with a lot, if not all, of the Polar engines. These valves are sold separately, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. There's a cap over the end of this hose, and you literally have to buy the valve. Now, I think that is incredibly stupid. You have to buy this valve, but it gives you the hose. It gives you literally everything you need to install it into the gearbox besides the valve. Now, how does that make any sense when you're spending $430? It doesn't make any sense. But the previous owner had put a IGL. I put an IGL in there for the customer, so I actually kept his old hose, brand new hose, and actually put it into my AK because there was my F2, because there was originally a IGL for this, and it was just in bad shape. And plus, I am going to have the hose come out of the back of my gearbox. Out of the back of the gun, like that down here on my AK. And with the IGL, it just wasn't possible. So with this, it works perfectly for me. So that's that. Dual solenoid here, bigger solenoids than no. It's more along the lines of a jack, I think, because the F2s are bigger solenoids, or sorry, the F1s are bigger. This is more along the lines of a jack solenoid. There's just two of them. This is all CNC'd. The nozzles are CNC'd as well, so you're not going to have Delrin plastic nozzles like the jacks and the F1s. Again, it is forward bias, so the nozzle is sprung forward, which just allows for much better consistency. This is the AK nozzle number 2, which is for like Simas and stuff. CNC'd. These are like 20 bucks, I think, which is not a bad price for a CNC'd aluminum nozzle. It's not. Like Jack's nozzles, I think, are about 20 bucks too, and they're all plastic. And then there's a bunch of parts inside of here. I did take this apart and lubricate it. I even took the solenoids out and lubricated it to see if that was the issue. But no, my trigger board's what's busted. So as far as battery space, it is very limited with the Polar FCUs. Very limited, but this barely fits in here. So in regards to the way that this gun is set up, it is set up for 365 feet per second with .2s, which is the field limit for the owner. He plays in California. And they allow 3-round burst for HPA systems for some of their games, he told me. Some of their games, they allow 3-round burst. So I've got it set for 30 rounds a second at 3-round burst. Let me go ahead and plug in the ear so you can actually hear it function. And that is 3-round burst. So it's pretty quick, 30 rounds a second, 3-round burst. So apparently his field allows that for HPA systems. I don't know if they allow full auto for AGs or whatnot, but he said he plays with semi-auto most of the time, which most fields nowadays are leaning towards semi-auto only, which I think is really stupid. The reason why they're doing that is because these little kids come to the field. That's honestly, airsoft has become a game of Nerf. It's these 10-year-old, 12-year-old kids that come out to play airsoft. And they don't know what they're doing, and so when they get hit, they cry, and so the field owner's like, oh, we need to create these rules so that these kids don't get hurt so that we can make more money. So then they make more money off of birthday parties or rentals, but the players that have been playing for years and years, like me, I've been playing for like 12, 13 years, the people that have been playing for so long are restricted because they have more money to purchase better guns, and in my case, more experience and knowledge on tuning guns and building guns and getting better rate of fire and better trigger response, but we're punished because little kids want to play airsoft like it's Nerf. It's silly. It's so stupid. Honestly, no kid under 13 should be playing airsoft at an actual field. If you're under 13 years old, go play in your backyard. Go play at your friend's house in the woods. If you are under 13 years old. That's just how it should be. But a lot of fields will allow 10-year-olds, literally, I've seen a lot of fields will post on their website that if you're over 10, you can come, which is absolutely absurd for airsoft. You're shooting people, but with plastic BBs, but obviously these little kids are going to complain and cry because it's painful, and it basically is ruining the sport. It really is. Sorry for that rant, but it honestly is ruining the sport as airsoft as we know it. It's changing into something that's like, oh, well, we need to be nice to these little kids, so don't shoot fast on semi-auto, or don't allow full auto, or this and that, and this and that. You can't be aggressive because little kids are going to get hurt. All this just junk. It's a bunch of nonsense. And honestly, Airsoft isn't as fun as it used to be anymore, because that's all field owners want to do is restrict good players so that little kids can play and they can make money. Honestly, that is exactly the way things have changed. Not all fields are like that, but a lot of them are nowadays, and it's extremely sad. But it is set for semi and with no delay, so you can, again, he is restricted to semi-auto for, he said, most of the games, but they do allow a couple games a day with 3-round burst. But you can shoot this thing incredibly fast on semi-auto, and that's the way with the V12s. All my HPA systems, I might be restricted to semi-auto at a lot of fields, but you get insane trigger response and you can spam the trigger. But anyways, here's semi-auto really fast. So I could probably do a little bit faster when I'm actually shooting at somebody. And as you can tell, it's about 30 rounds a second. Now these HPA systems, these F2s, are extremely, extremely air efficient. They are the most air efficient system out there on the market right now. And the reason why is because stock, these F2s are going to come with a red low flow poppet. They're actually colored red, and they're equal to the Polar Star Fusion Engine red low flow poppet. Stock. Not only that, it's actually coming with a red nozzle. Yeah, obviously the color's red, but the nozzle, red nozzle of the Fusion Engine is the same bore as this nozzle. So I hope that makes sense. Basically, you buy a Polar Star Fusion Engine, you put a red poppet in there, you put a red nozzle in there. This is that stock. Hope that makes sense. Polar Star does have even a lower flow poppet for this. It's like purple, I think, and so it's even lower flow. What is in here is absolutely perfect. You can shoot like 280 feet per second all the way up to like 500, maybe even higher than that.